All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16 with Max Barr previewing the other games on Saturday. In SEC basketball, we've already previewed two in separate videos. That is Auburn and Alabama and Missouri and Kentucky. So if you're fans of those teams, check those out in the other videos here on the channel. But let's talk about the other six here, Max. It's a loaded slate on Saturday, as we know, because a lot on the line with the last regular season games here to go. And so let's start in Fayetteville. Mississippi State hits the road to play Arkansas, 11 a.m. Central on the SEC network. We know kind of what's at stake here. And we'll say up front, and we were kind of laughing about this, but like, you guys have watched our stuff. You know what we think about these teams. You know how, what the strengths and weaknesses are of these teams at this point. But we probably spend a little more time talking about it within the context of what does this mean moving forward, potential tournament type scenarios and all that. Well, we know that Arkansas moved a bit closer after the win at Vanderbilt. And so now the Hogs kind of make up for that loss to South Carolina by beating the Commodores on the road, sitting there in most bracketologies, close to still maybe that last four in, but they are in, I would say, as of right now. And then meanwhile, Mississippi State, we talked about it in our reaction this week, one of the more confusing teams in the SEC. They came off that home loss to LSU, losing at home to Texas in overtime. They've lost 3 of 4 entering this game, and now, depending on where you look, Max, kind of even sliding down to that 8-9 game, which is not what you want to see if you're a Mississippi State fan. So a lot on the line here for Arkansas specifically, but don't discount the idea either that, boy, Mississippi State were to lose this game, they may not be able to get out of that 8-9 spot.
Oh, I am just so excited for this game. Quickly going to pull up here a graphic from our good friend JC Hoops, Blake. Look at JC getting on the graphics.
The graphic
Look at
game.
this. So here you go, Hogs fans, because I know we probably got a good amount watching this video. Here are your seeding scenarios based on the other people's performances, but you could also control your own destiny just winning. If you get no help, 10 seed. If you win and Vanderbilt loses, you get a little bit of help there. You jump up to a 9 seed. And then the two losing scenarios, they get a little bit tricky. If you're on audio, hop on JC Hoops' Twitter, Jackson Collier, and get a load of his tournament seeding scenario graphic.
Hey,
so
listen,
there you have it.
If you're Arkansas, do you really want the 9 seed? Because guess what? That means you're playing the Gamecocks again. That's not what you want right now, I don't think.
Nope.
No, in all seriousness, this is very impressive. But like you said, and what's going to happen, Vanderbilt and Georgia, we'll talk about them in a minute. They're going to play each other. Texas plays Oklahoma. So, yeah, a lot of seeding possibilities here. But I guess matchup-wise, Max, we can run through this quickly with these two teams. I mean, we keep saying the same thing, Mississippi State. It's not just, their rough numbers from three. Offensively, 28.6% in SEC play. That's last in the conference. But it's just continuing to look at that perimeter defense from Mississippi State. That is something that we've noted can play a role. Well, we know Arkansas, again, not necessarily a team that's always going to rely on the three. But, we have seen the Hogs be able to step up and make some shots. And so I think that is something where, when you think about this from a momentum standpoint, it certainly feels like Arkansas is the team with a lot of momentum that they gained from winning that game at Vanderbilt. And I think to me what it comes down to here is the defense because, again, we've said it all year long. I know Arkansas has been frustrating on the offensive side at times, but their defense now top 15 in the country in defensive efficiency. I don't know that anyone expected this team to get there based on, some of the things maybe were coming into the season because I felt like we were spending a lot more time on the offense. But now, defensively, look at what they've accomplished. And I think that's the most impressive thing here. And now we see if Mississippi State can go on the road and be able to put up some points here against a very, very good defense.
Yeah, because they're bigger. They're much bigger now. They don't play anyone under 6'4". And even DJ Wagner is listed at 195. I really wish he was listed at 200 because then I could say their entire lineup is 6'4" or taller, 200 pounds or heavier. I mean, this is a tough team that even without Adu Thero, look at what Trevon Brazile did last game. I know we've been getting on Brazile a little bit, but he just had an incredible game. And Big Z, I really hope we get another year of Big Z, Blake, by the way. I'm seeing him on some mock drafts now. Now we need to start a little keep Big Z in school fun there. We need another billboard. Get a billboard up there. But for Mississippi State, how can they attack that defense on the road? I think it's a Murph game. I'm calling it right now. I think it's a Murph game. Bring Big Z out, make him move his feet. I think Keshawn Murphy has the athleticism advantage on Big Z. Even Adu also. I think without Adu Thero in there, I think this could be a huge Murph game. Pack it inside early for Mississippi State, and then maybe you find some openings for the 3-point shooters later on.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, Big Z to me certainly someone I think that's going to have to play big. But I mean, we talked about the Trevin Brazil game.
Yep.
It's like, can you just see him build off of that? I mean, that was that vintage. Hey, here's a guy who we're wondering how many years he's going to stay in college because he's definitely going to be at the pro level and all that. And we know there've been injuries and such. And man, can he build off a game like that? Because if he can, and you see Arkansas have a similar performance like they had in Nashville, I think it is one where you're not just saying, hey, they can win this game. Hey, if they're motivated enough, they can go win some games in the SEC tournament, and that is a team. Maybe, hey, you don't want to see them on the 10 line or something like that in the NCAA because they may win a couple games just based on kind of getting that. So I think he's the biggest key again here for me is just can Brazil take that as a repeat performance, right? He's had some of those good games. Go back early in the season, he was a bit more consistent, but now, like in SEC play, can he have back-to-back games like that? When you look at the way he's played these past several games, the 40-minute game against Texas in overtime, scored 12 points there, 8 rebounds. This past game against Vanderbilt, 15 and 14. So I think I'm curious to see how he bounces back here against, like we said, what's going to be a physical Mississippi State team. So, Max, picks for this one.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a real good game. Ken Palm's got this as a 74-72 win for Arkansas. So you're going to get a one possession spread here. Be able to play a money line either way here with pretty close odds. I think that Mississippi State is a team that has moved into my I have no clue what to expect category with the Bulldogs. They have overtaken Kentucky for most unpredictable team right now. And Arkansas at home, Blake, when you look at their last few games, they had the OT win at Texas, a little shaky, but before that, beat Missouri, beat LSU, almost beat Alabama. I really like the way the Hogs are playing at home. Even without Adu Thero, maybe the legs could come back to bite them, but I'm going to go with the home crowd in the last game of the season. Play it safe, go with the Hogs.
Yep, I'm going to go keep betting on the motivation here because I feel like I've done the opposite in some of these games and we've gotten them wrong. And so I'm like, all right, who's the more motivated team? Arkansas, I think, is in. I've said that. But you don't want to leave anything to chance if you lose this game and then lose the first game in the SEC tournament. So I think Cal will have them motivated, and I'm going to pick Arkansas in this one. All right, another game of motivation. Vanderbilt at Georgia, 11 a.m. Central as well on ESPNU. These two teams, I think, as of my calculations, as the 187th ranked bracketologist out there, Max, myself, I got both these teams in. I think they're in no matter what happens here. And again, from a seeding perspective, that's where this game can get a little interesting because you do have kind of a situation here, and I'm going to pull it up real quick just for my own remembering the math on all this. So you've currently got Vanderbilt slotted into that 10. You've got Georgia at the 12. Those can change because if Vanderbilt wins, they can go to 9-9, which could then somehow put them either ahead of Mississippi State, in a tie with Kentucky. All sorts of things can play out there. And then for Georgia, they're kind of right now at 7-10 with Arkansas. Obviously, if those two teams finish with the same record, Arkansas gets the head-to-head, so Georgia would finish below them. But again, you've got one of these scenarios now where there's lots of room for movement, seemingly, for a couple of these teams like this. But also, if you want to be 100% sure, yes, winning this game would be advised that you're in the tournament. But like I said, I think Vanderbilt's absolutely in. Georgia's a little further from being secure maybe, but I tend to think they're also going to make it. So kind of an interesting setup here with these two teams who were on the bubble a week ago but may have already played their way in.
Yeah, one thing, and this is the first time I've ever really said this, but the main storyline for me coming away from this game is going to be margin of victory. Yeah. Because if this is a blowout one way or the other, that is the one way I can see a team coming out of this game and going, "Oh no,
Why do they do that?"
Why we're not? No, oh no, they might not make it now. So Ken Pom has this projected as a 78 to 73 victory for Georgia at home, probably around a 5-point spread. Just keep the result somewhere around there, just within like 5 to 10 points. And I think both teams move on from this game still in a great position. One team gets flipped from that projection 15, 20 points off. Oh no, could fall back a little bit more than you wanted to here in the final game. But that's what we're going to be looking at, Blake. Probably about a 2-possession favorite for the Bulldogs.
Well, don't look now, but Georgia's offense has seemingly found something here, as we talked about. I mean, they scored 88 at home against Florida, 83 on the road at Texas. They come back, score 73 at South Carolina, which, again, all things considered, that's a pretty good thing because we know how the Gamecocks have played home. Georgia shot 58% from 2 in that game, shot 80% from the free throw line, only turned it over 8 times. So those are all things, I think, when we talk about this team. We've talked about the turnovers this year, the shooting percentages, like even free throw wise, they're average, a little below average from the free throw line. And so I think being able to see that from them is very good, and especially now that you get a situation where you come back home. And we talked about, for the most part, they've been really good at home this season. They've had some close losses, but obviously they've had some big wins too, including the Florida game, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and so forth. So I think, again, Georgia's playing with a different level of confidence right now. And I do wonder for Vanderbilt, they were kind of that team, right? They had 3 straight wins against Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Missouri before they just kind of got taken out of their game by Arkansas. And so that was kind of a surprising result to be that, 13-point type game. But I think this is one, too, where we talk about the turnovers, right? Vanderbilt does a great job of forcing turnovers. They're third in the SEC in conference play and turnover percentage defense. As we said, Georgia can maybe give the ball away a little too much at times. So to me, that's what I'm looking at here. If you're also Vanderbilt, you're playing a team defensively in Georgia we talked about. It can really make things difficult for you around that top 25 mark in defensive efficiency. So once again, I think it's the name of the game here. Like ball handling, can Vanderbilt force turnovers? Can Georgia be able to do that against a team that doesn't turn the ball over a lot? Because, again, I think those are kind of the fun little stylistic matchups you have between these two teams.
The Tyron Lawrence revenge game.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
He's been a big reason why their offense has kind of picked up. Missed a few of those games. They dropped all of them. He comes back, plays north of 20 minutes in each game, and really starts to spark the creation in that offense. Just adds another ball handler that can beat a guy one-on-one. Just kind of helps out the offense. Blake, you know how maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we were about a third through conference play, and we were talking about how Kentucky's defense in conference play, their efficiency, the difference between them at 16th in the league and 15th in the league was the same as like the difference between 15th and 9th or something. That's how far back Kentucky's defense is. Well, Vanderbilt has traded places with them. Their defensive efficiency in conference play is 116. That's 2.2 points between them and 15th. That's the same distance between 15th and 10th. Vanderbilt's defense way back there. Give me the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Georgia here too. I think, they're the home team, and I don't know. Something was interesting about the Vanderbilt game against Arkansas, and I wonder if, maybe that's a little bit of a hangover effect too for a team that was riding high, and then you kind of get beat like that. Again, I'm not saying they lost by 25 or anything, but, again, kind of on your home court, chance to improve your seeding potentially up to possibly even a 7, something like that, but didn't happen. So, yeah, I like Georgia here. I do still feel like they're the team that's furthest behind, so I'm going to take that motivation level 2 for the Bulldogs to safely keep themselves out of Dayton and all that. I don't know that they'll wind up there, but, again, you don't want to take any chances here in these final couple games, both regular season and SEC tournament. So, all right, on to the next one. South Carolina at Tennessee, 1 p.m. Central, SEC Network. Yeah, I mean, this is one, obviously, that doesn't have a lot in terms of seeding necessarily in play unless you are Tennessee. South Carolina's locked into the 16 in the SEC tournament. We know the Gamecocks will not be playing for the NCAA tournament unless they were to shock the world and win it all in Nashville next week. But as for the Vols, they are in a situation where it's pretty simple for them. If they win and Alabama loses at Auburn, Tennessee will lock up the number 3 seed in the SEC tournament. If Tennessee loses, though, and you, let's say, have Texas A&M win, Missouri win, Ole Miss win, well, then things get pretty complicated at that point. Then you'd have a potential four-way tie in that spot, even if Tennessee were to be in some of the tiebreakers with those other teams. The good news for the Vols is what, Max? They've beaten A&M, they've beaten Missouri, did not beat Ole Miss. So if you're rooting for different tiebreaker scenarios, you want to be in there with Missouri and A&M versus maybe just one with Ole Miss. So worth noting there in terms of the seeding for Tennessee. Can they still get to a number one seed in the NCAA tournament? We'll find out, right? Florida, I think, for most people, has jumped Tennessee based on the Gators win in Alabama. So really, Max, I mean, to me, that's kind of the story here of this game. Maybe not a lot other than that, just because Tennessee coming off, what I think, obviously for most people, this Vols team is in an interesting spot losing that game at Ole Miss because they were playing so well before that. And like I told you, I don't think they played that bad at Ole Miss. For once, it seemed like their defense was the thing we picked on them more for than the offense. Ole Miss just had a game where Brakefield took over and was kind of the story there. So not really feeling much different about Tennessee. I think they come back home in a pretty good spot here against South Carolina.
Yeah, I really like the spot for Tennessee. I know sometimes in the last game of the season, people tend to, stay away. Oh, this is a little bit tricky. Last game of the year. You don't know about motivation. Everything you just illustrated about the seeding and the implications if Tennessee was to lose this game, I don't think there's going to be like any sort of fluky, funny business here. I think Tennessee comes out extra focused, especially coming off the loss. You don't want to enter postseason play coming off of 2 straight losses with the last one being at home.
Yeah.
Good thing for the Vols, there's no Talon Cooper or BJ Mack in this game.
Are you sure? Yeah, you never know.
Well,
They may have gotten some eligibility for the final regular season game.
As Vols fans know all too well what Lamont Paris did in Knoxville last year. So I think add that in. Rick Barnes is going to remind them of that in practice. Remember what these guys did to you last year. I think Tennessee comes out extra focused. I don't even care really what the number is here. I like Tennessee against any spread here. I really like the Vols in this spot.
Yeah, your better number may be the South Carolina team total, which I know our friends Brian Edwards and Jay Greason always talk about the team totals. And South Carolina scoring on the road. Here are the numbers in SEC play. 50 points, 63, 62, 60, 57, 67, 67, 71. So Tennessee defensively, what they do, I would be willing to bet that the Vols probably find a way with their defense here to hold the Gamecocks in the 60s, maybe 50s, something like that. So I will pick Tennessee in this matchup. All right, Max, Texas A&M and LSU, 3 p.m. Central on the SEC Network. The Aggies picked up their biggest win of the season, beating Auburn. That seemingly moves them back into that protected seed range, even maybe a 3 for some people. So that's the difference. When you get a win like that against a team like Auburn this year, that can jump you up maybe a spot or 2 when it comes to the seed lines, especially for a team that had just lost 4 in a row. And we were like, oh, boy, they lose this one. Then you go into this tricky road game at LSU. Could A&M be sitting there looking at a 6-game losing streak heading into SEC play? Not going to be the case. And also for LSU, they've lost 4 in a row. They just have not been able to find that consistency. Got blown out at Kentucky. We talked about the stylistic matchup there, and it just felt like that was just one of the furthest ones away you were going to get this season in the SEC. Kentucky wins it by 31. But last time around, I mean, LSU did not play bad in College Station. Now, that was a month and a half ago. And I think there was Wade Taylor playing that game? I think that may have been his first game back or something like that. I don't remember how it all unfolded. But I don't think this is a simple game for A&M because hangover effect, LSU has kind of been a team that at times, especially at home, can be a little stingy, as we know. So this is an interesting one.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. But the thing for LSU is, who's going to play? Last game, Corey Chest has missed 2 straight. Yeah. Victorious Miller was out last game. So that's going to be really important, especially Corey Chest in a game like this against A&M. Texas A&M on the road, they have lost 2 straight. They lost at Mississippi State badly, lost at Florida badly. So I think this is a big confidence is the word I was looking for. Big confidence game here for A&M. If they can enter postseason play going on the road at a team that has been pretty tough at home, even though if they're shorthanded, if A&M can go and just really play a clean, dominant game, do what they do and do it well, I think that's the biggest storyline that could come out of this zone, just because look at their last 2 road games, Blake. They have not been pretty.
No, and look, A&M also, again, has something to play for here in terms of their seeding, not just in the NCAA, but in the SEC tournament. LSU's locked into the 15. A&M, though, is 10-7, so they're in that range where right now they're tied with Missouri, Ole Miss. We mentioned the Tennessee effect, how they come into this, so A&M could move several spots, right, depending on how this thing plays out. Of course, if it were to come down to Tennessee and A&M can't get the double bye. I don't know exactly the math on whether they can still get it in some other combination, but we know they're going to be in some sort of tiebreaker with Tennessee, and that does not bode well for the Aggies there, so someone will obviously correct me. But I don't know if there's still a path. I assume there is for A&M to maybe get into that 4, but I think it would take another combination of getting them in there with Missouri or Ole Miss to be able to have that happen. So, we can make our picks on this game. I think this is a tricky one for A&M. I think it's a tough choice here to just feel completely confident coming off of their biggest win of the season. We've seen that too many times this year for teams where they just get that huge high and then they come out. And we saw LSU have a whatever lead against Florida. We've seen them have games like that in Baton Rouge. So we'll see where we go on picks.
Yeah, right now looking at 131 Sports Bracketology, they have A&M as a 3 seed. If they were to win that first game, they'd be playing Marquette. If they were to bounce back to a 4 seed, their second round game is Missouri. The difference between a 3 seed in the tournament and a 4 seed in the tournament could be the difference between a Sweet 16 or getting bounced early. So I'm going to take the motivation. I'm going to take the Blake pick here. Ride with the motivation. Give me A&M on the road. I know it's tricky. They've not been good on the road, but they need it.
Ooh, I'm telling you, there is part of me that wants to pick LSU here. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pick A&M, but I don't know. For some reason, it just feels like a tricky one to me. But we'll see what the motivation level is for. We'll see what it is for LSU too in the spot because again, you're not really. You don't really have a lot to play for at this point. So, we'll see how it plays out with that. All right, now we've got Ole Miss at Florida, 5 p.m. Central on the SEC Network. Here's another game where Florida's already locked in. They're number 2 seed in the SEC tournament, but we know the Gators would like to win this one to potentially lock in that number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So that is notable. Meanwhile, Ole Miss, we keep talking about this row of teams locked in right there with a record at the moment of 10-7. So lots of different ways they can have this thing play out. I do think there is still a potential that Ole Miss can get the double bye and finish 4th. But again, it's going to take some weird combination of tiebreakers with the other 3 teams, Missouri, A&M, Tennessee, for that to happen. They could also, Max, fall down, a little. I think they can fall at least another spot, maybe, based on kind of the math I've done there. So, yeah, all that to say, winning this game would be nice for Ole Miss, but it may be a challenge against the Gators, who, once again, sort of showcase what they're capable of with the 99-94 win at Alabama earlier in the week.
Pop quiz. What is Jamin Breakfield's career high, and when did he get it? I'll answer that for you.
I'm going to use the math because anytime you or Chris ask me that question, I know it applies to the team we're talking about. So I'm going to say it's against Florida, but I don't have the date for you. So
yes, it was last year on January 10th when Ole Miss had their SEC Chris Beard home opener when Ole Miss won 103-85 behind a Jamin Breakfield 28-point performance, the best performance of Jamin Breakfield's career. He just so happens to be coming off a big-time game where he won the game for the Rebels. But he's going to have to go against the monsters, Condon, Janielu, and Lockton, Tommy H. Man, we've been talking about the Ole Miss rebounding effort. They just had one of their best of the season against Tennessee last time out. Tough to do it against the Gators, though, Blake.
Yeah, I think, and I'm looking back at this to make sure I have my math right, I think Florida has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 straight, I believe, against Ole Miss in Gainesville. It had some close games in there, but Yeah, this feels like one where like you're coming off the high for Ole Miss just to be able to get that signature win, which I feel like we've said that for so many teams these past week and a half or so. Like everyone's gotten like their season defining win, all in like a very close range together. And now again, you're playing a Florida team that, you know, if you're like, all right, Florida's locked into their SEC tournament, but this ain't about that for the Gators. It's about keeping that number one seed in the NCAA tournament. And I think that's where, like, matchup wise, when you look at these two teams, I do feel like it's one where, you know, Ole Miss, we've talked about it. They've been kind of a team, I feel like, that's sort of up and down with our thoughts on them offensively. But we've also, like, Florida defensively, I feel like it's still the kind of thing where, sure, we've seen some of those stretches for the Gators where, like, you know, the Georgia one, right? And like, okay, my goodness, how did they give up that many points that early and all that? But still, it's just all the different guys they can rotate in and out, I think, defensively, and just seeing what they can do on that side of the floor. To me, like, it's so easy just to get enamored with how good Florida is offensively. But once again, when you think about where they were game one of SEC play at Kentucky, and that's not knocking Kentucky. Kentucky's a great offensive team. We're at that time. But just to see the progress they've made on the defensive side of the floor and just see what they're able to do. And look, I say that knowing they're coming off a game where they gave up 94. But we mentioned, like, kind of have to throw out the Alabama, Kentucky, Florida games because those games are just always going to be wild in terms of, you know, the overall scoring. But I've been impressed overall with the Gators, I think, and I think defensively is what I kind of see as the standout here, too, in this one.
Yeah, I think there's maybe some things that Ole Miss can do with their turnover forcing scheme. Florida, they have good turnover numbers, like as a team, like turnover rate, steal rate. They can go through stretches where it's a little bit sloppy, where maybe settle for a little bit. But it feels like Auburn earlier in the year when we're trying to find little nooks and crannies of where you can try to exploit weaknesses. I think that's just talking about the turnovers. I think that's just a strength of Ole Miss rather than a weakness for Florida. Can Ole Miss, use their strengths in this game? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they can because this is a Florida team that's just been playing lights out, Blake.
Yeah, I think we know where we're going for picks. So
I think there's some areas that Ole Miss can take advantage of, but I think the rebounding in the relentless front court from Florida is just going to be too much. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be able to overcome it. So just by virtue of that, give me Florida.
Yeah, it seemed like a game where Florida grabs like 15 offensive rebounds.
Yep.
You know, they get 20 second chance points, and that may be it. So
Yep.
I'm going to take Florida from that standpoint. So, all right, now we get to the finale, and it's kind of fitting, isn't it? That like it was scheduled this way, that these were the game times, the way it was set up to have Oklahoma at Texas as the lone night game to finish the regular season. And boy, oh boy, does it have a lot on the line. 7 p.m. Central on the SEC Network. I mean, we could spend 30 seconds on this game and make it very clear. Like, this is a monumental bubble game for the winner. Whoever wins is going to take a step forward. Whoever loses may take a step back. And I think that's kind of the way the setup is here. What else do we add? I mean, these two teams in Lenardi's bracket and many other people's bracket are sitting there in that last four out range. Maybe there are some people that still have Oklahoma as like the last team in. Texas is maybe a little bit closer to that. But any way you slice it, you're probably looking at these two teams in either that last team or two in, first four out range right now. So if that's our expectation, then whoever wins here is about to either play their way into the NCAA tournament or get a little bit closer, maybe locking up a game in the SEC tournament where they have to win that one. But whoever loses it, then maybe you have your back against the wall heading into Nashville next week.
Another pop quiz. Hitting you with some pop quizzes this morning.
Man,
these teams already played.
Pencil.
Yep. Gertrude, whatever it's called. 77 for Texas. Oklahoma 73. What was the largest lead in that game?
Oh, I remember we talked about that at the time. What was it, like 6, 7?
The final score.
Oh, it was 4. Okay.
4. So that's any indication of what we might see here. the game tracker, the ESPN game tracker, both teams right there, just trading leads every 5 minutes. This was a game that Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears combined for 49. They almost had half the team. They had more than half the team's points. But this was also a game that Jordan Pope scored 27 for Texas. The only time in SEC play he's reached the 20-point mark. So you had big-time performances from individual players in both times in the first game. I expect the same thing. It's just going to be a trading places. Last time it was Jordan Pope. This time it's probably Tremont Mark. Last time it was Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears. It's probably going to be Jalen Moore and Jeremiah Fears again. But Blake, if I had to put an odds, minus 110, minus 110 is yes and no. A player in this game reaches 30 points individually. Would you go yes? Okay. Yeah.
And it's going to lead me to my next point. You're talking about the Trey Johnson final game at Texas. Final home game. Like, I feel like this is the point where this dude's just going to come in and say, all right, we got to get to the NCAA tournament. Let's get the ball to me and let's get us there. Like, let's find the way. So, I mean, this is one, again, we could break it down every way you want to, and we'll talk about a couple things quickly, but, like, I just think this is a game where I'm not going to spoil my pick just yet, but maybe I am. But, like, I feel like this is the kind of that spot for Texas where they just got that grinding out overtime win at Mississippi State where they almost gave it away, right?
Yep.
But they win that game, and now they get to come back home knowing their season is on the line. And for Oklahoma, yes, they just got a huge win against Missouri. But the problem is we've seen Oklahoma on the road, and the road performances, I know they didn't play bad at Ole Miss, but the overall road performances have left a lot to be desired. And I know, again, Texas has slipped up a little bit at home too. I get that. But especially the last time they played there against Georgia. But it's like if you're playing the probabilities and the percentages, I don't know that Texas is going to play back-to-back home games like they did in that one against Georgia. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's a lot in Texas's favor here.
There's a lot in Texas's favor, but there's one major factor that is massively in Oklahoma's favor. That's free throws.
Yeah.
They are fourth in the league in free throws attempted, free throw rate. Texas defensively, dead last. They put teams on the line like it's nobody's business. So if I can see a game where Jeremiah Fears, Jalen Moore are driving relentlessly, and there's just a whistle blown on the intensity is extra high in a game like this. Season's on the line, and there's 30 free throws shot. Then I can see Oklahoma making it a game. However, the Moody Center has not been performing up to the Moody Center expectations. Blake lost to Arkansas.
No.
The Alabama game was not pretty. The Georgia game was not pretty. Did get a win against the Cats there. But you know what? This is their old pal from the Big 12. This one's going to mean a little bit more to those fans in Austin. Give me the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'm picking Texas here. I feel so confident about Texas that I probably should pick Oklahoma. That's where we're at right now.
Wow.
I probably should. Like, I feel pretty good about the Longhorns in the spot. And think about what I'm saying. I feel great about a team that may be the third or fourth team out of the tournament right now. What could go wrong when I'm feeling so confident about a team that's not even considered a tournament team at the moment? So, I don't know about that. This probably is more of a 50-50 game, and I could certainly see Oklahoma going in and winning it. But I don't know. There is something about, I think, the Trey Johnson effect in these kind of games. This one right here. Maybe not some of these previous ones and some, whatever. But in this game right here, I could see a legendary performance from him. But we'll see.
For it.
Fears too. Fears could do the same thing. So Moore could do the same thing. So we'll find out. All right. Let's tell you quickly about our friends at BracketBids. Tournament bracket will be revealed next week, as we know. You want to take your college hoops experience to the next level with BracketBids. Enter that free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league with friends, family, or coworkers. We're going to be doing that at Southeastern 16. So if you join the It Just Means More tier, you have a chance to join in on that auction draft league we're going to have here with us. So everyone starts with the same bidding dollars. Up to you to outwit and outbid your league mates. Secure the teams you think will go the distance. Choose from multiple scoring models, including the upset bonuses, reward the bold picks, track your teams with live in-game scoring, and watch the standings shift in real time. The further they advance, the higher you climb the standings. For league play, use that promo code SC16 for 40% off. SC16, 40% off. Download the BracketBids app today or visit them at bracketbids.com. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, turn on your notifications. The amount of content and videos you're going to have here at Southeastern 16 over the next month is going to be absurd. But that's what we're here
March.
for. It's March. This is March, and we appreciate you tuning in as always. And again, we'll have a reaction on Saturday, primetime reaction. We'll give you the SEC tournament bracket. We'll break it down. We'll look ahead, all that kind of stuff. So, again, guys, we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16.